I left my dream job, and it wasn't my choice. Yeah, my body gave out. A few months earlier, I remember standing outside of my manager's office, staring at the metal doorknob. I had 2 minutes till a big client presentation and was on meeting 3 of 6 that day. My calendar was packed, my inbox was overflowing, but my body felt like it was made of cement. My head pounded, my lower back ached. I felt foggy, irritable, and exhausted in a way that sleep hadn't fixed. And what confused me most was that just the week before, I'd had the exact same schedule. But then I felt electric. I was clear, confident, and full of ideas. Still, I did what I trained myself to do. Took a deep breath, turned the knob, and pushed harder. It was not my best work, but I got the job done. These confusing shifts in my disposition kept happening, and I didn't understand their patterns, so I blamed myself. I downloaded productivity apps, drank more coffee when the fatigue hit, and pushed harder. Eventually, my body pushed back. I hit burnout, and I had to leave. A few months later, I found myself at my first yoga teacher training. Rested, well, and surrounded by other women when I learned something that changed my life. Our teacher was sharing about the 28-day hormonal rhythm of the menstrual cycle and how each week in a month has different energetic profiles and optimal output. I shared with her what I was struggling with at work, and she looked at me and said, "Well, of course you were struggling. You were fighting against your natural rhythm." I was 25, and I was dumbfounded. I knew about my period, but I had no idea these other rhythms were happening inside of me. And as I looked around the room, I saw surprise mirrored back at me on the faces of women of all ages. I thought back to standing outside of my manager's door, feeling drained. And suddenly, it all made sense. So often, women aren't taught about our own bodies, nor are they studied proportionally in science or reflected in the structures around us. What I learned that day was that the standard workday mirrors the 24-hour hormonal cycle of men, but not the 28-day menstrual cycle of women. When the US invented the 9-to-5 workday in 1935, less than 20% of the workforce were women. Now that we're 50% of it, it's time to update that with who's here. This matters, not just for women's health, but for the future of work. Testosterone follows a 24-hour clock. It rises in the morning, drops at night, and resets daily. Perfectly aligned with the 9-to-5 workday that assumes that roughly every day should look the same. Same workload, same output, same energy. But those of us with menstrual cycles don't operate on a daily rhythm. We operate on a monthly one, a little more like this. Yeah. So over the span of roughly 28 days, estrogen, progesterone, and a few other hormones rise and fall in a powerful dance, creating distinct phases with their own natural shifts in energy, metabolism, and mood. And when half of the workforce is asked to perform as if their biology is linear, when it's actually cyclical, the costs are massive. 1 in 3 women report wanting to leave or downshift their careers and report higher rates of stress and burnout due to compounding factors, this being a big one of them. 45% of women miss multiple days of work annually due to painful cycle symptoms, and 80% report showing up feeling exhausted to work in later phases of their cycle, but pushing through anyways, like I did. Burnout costs the US workforce up to $21,000 per employee annually in lost productivity and turnover. The performance and well-being of half of our world's workforce is being constrained by systems that weren't designed with them in mind. And like so many women, I kept trying to solve this by beating myself up over these shifts, pushing harder, productivity hacks, and looking outside of myself for solutions when I should have been looking inside. The solution isn't a better planner, it's hormonal intelligence. Cycle syncing. And men in the room, this concerns you too. This lost productivity affects your bottom line, your company's performance, and your team's health. If you don't pay attention to become part of the solution now, rest assured, your competitors will. So let's meet each of these weekly phases. I like to think of them as the 4 seasons because the energy and the needs of each mirror these times. Winter, menstrual phase. Energy drops. Estrogen, which is responsible for boosting dopamine, which creates motivation and joy, is at its lowest. Pushing through intense schedules here can feel like moving through molasses. At work, this isn't the week for back-to-back meetings. Prioritize deep solo work. Work from home days, spacious pacing, and more time between things can actually increase energy for the rest of the month. Focus on tasks like strategy and editing. Spring, follicular phase. After menstruation, estrogen rises, and so do creativity, clarity, and motivation. Brain fog lifts, and ideas start flowing. At work, this is a great time for launching new projects, strategic collaboration, and big brainstorming. Summer, ovulation. Things are heating up. Estrogen and confidence are at their peak. Communication, verbal sharpness, and social energy are typically highest. This is prime time to schedule big meetings, networking, negotiation, and high visibility work. Schedule the most demanding or collaborative days here. And finally, fall, the luteal phase. Progesterone rises and energy begins to decline, bringing a more detailed and inward-focused energy. As women move later in this phase, poor sleep, irritability, and painful PMS symptoms can become common. At work, this is a powerful time to harness this detailed-oriented energy by focusing on analysis and strategy, checklist tasks, heads-down work, and wrapping up projects versus starting new ones. So cycle syncing is about building in rest when our bodies need it and pushing into drive when we're firing and full of energy. It's not about building a rigid structure because things come up, like needing to give your low keynote when you're on your period. But it is about knowing where we're at energetically and balancing across our personal and our professional lives so that we can show up supported. For too long, women have tried to fit into the workplace molds of men. But we have our own superpowers, and if we honor them, they actually boost productivity and performance and well-being for women. This has changed my life and improved the lives of women around me as well, like my friend Sal, who had a pitch competition in the deep fatigue of her late luteal phase and rested in other areas of her life and had the energy to crush it and win first place. Or Alice, who asked for a raise during her ovulation week, fueled with the confidence and magnetism to get it, and now schedules her highest output days and her biggest calls there. Or Ella, a national champion swimmer sitting in this room, who saw dramatically better results when her coach aligned her training routine with her phase. What will you achieve when your workload aligns with your phase? And if we want to get the most out of our workforce, doesn't it make sense to have a strategy where all your workforce is able to align with their own energy? Luckily, FinTech, a $100 billion industry, is leading the way by finally redesigning women's data, health, and performance, by studying our biology and helping organizations understand how to support it. Managers at these organizations build monthly and weekly roadmaps that allow their team members the flexibility to align their daily schedules with their energy, and they prioritize performance overall versus daily consistency. Team members across genders use simple signals like a battery emoji or a blood drop in their statuses to normalize energy awareness, signaling taking a meeting off camera that day, or delaying a non-urgent request. They provide 1 to 2 menstrual or health flexibility days monthly and cycle and menopausal coaching in their health benefits, understanding that performance isn't linear. Performance-based models are already working. In the UK's 4-day workweek pilot, 92% of companies kept the flexible model, stating stable or higher revenue, increased retention, and lower burnout. Japan saw a 40% increase in productivity, with similar results seen in Iceland and Spain. Flexible design benefits all of us because we all have unique rhythms. Why aren't we designing for this? And since I'm talking to business leaders, I want to talk about what you can do. 1, build work rhythms with women in mind in HR practices as well. 2, keep talking about this. Think about one thing you want to share with someone after this talk and share it widely. Keep learning about this topic and normalize cycle literacy on your teams. And 3, everyone, but women especially, download a cycle syncing app like Flow. Start to track and understand your rhythm and plan around your peaks where you can. We live in a burnout society, one that prioritizes the grind and sleepless nights as the sign of a job well done. And yet, it's costing us. 2 in 3 people in this room will likely experience burnout. Look left, look right. We're pushing past our limits. But cycle syncing invites an important question, honoring our internal seasons. We don't plow a field in winter or ask a tree to bloom in spring. They have their own rhythms, and so do we, if we're wise enough to listen to it. We treat our bodies like machines, when really, they're nature too. Thanks.